Good morning and welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Jim Rosenfield. Dave Briggs here with me at the Sunrise Diner here in Roselle Park, New Jersey. And there's Alisyn Camerota at our global home quarters. Good morning to you, Alisyn.
Good morning, guys. I stayed up way too late attempting to watch Jimmy Kimmel and then fell asleep right beforehand. So it was a lose-lose actually for me, but I have watched it this morning and really interesting broadcast.
I was curious who stayed up. I went to bed about 8:30. Didn't even try. You?
I did. I tried to record it and it wasn't there this morning when I tried to watch it. A big fail.
Ask your kids, okay?
Yeah.
Old timer?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll help you out.
Yeah, but I did watch it on YouTube along with like 6 million other people this morning.
It's approaching 6 million views, and it aired at 11:30 Eastern time. That is remarkable.
Yeah, that's our top story. Obviously, this morning, Jimmy Kimmel returning to late night last night. Here are his first words to the audience.
As I was saying before I was interrupted, if you're just joining us, we are preempting your regularly scheduled encore episode of Celebrity Family Feud to bring you this special report. I'm happy to be here tonight with you.
So, guys, we don't have the ratings, the television broadcast ratings yet. We'll get them at some point today. But as you said already on YouTube, there are millions of people who tuned in to see what exactly Kimmel was going to say about all of this and whether he was going to issue an apology. And whether, I mean, there were some people talking about whether that was some part of the deal. Did they only let him back if he issued an apology? So here is what he said about his controversial remarks about Charlie Kirk's assassin.
I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human. And that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't, ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about...
Very few jokes in that 12-minute monologue, but I think his finest work of his long career.
We all noted he did not say, "I apologize" or "I'm sorry." Those words did not come out of his mouth.
There were betting markets on that. Would he apologize?
But I did. But I wanted to ask you guys about that because I did think he apologized. I don't think you have to say "I apologize" in order to apologize. Well, I did hear that as an apology.
Let me tell you what the right is already saying, that no, he didn't. This is what they are saying, that he did not. That what are the betting markets are also saying, no, he did not. Look, I agree. That's just parsing words. This was a heartfelt outreach to the people he may have offended, far more important than the word sorry. Kimmel went on to say his show was not that important. But what is important is living in a country that allows him to have a show like this. Kimmel thanked fellow late-night hosts and luminaries as well, like Leno and Letterman and several others. He also thanked Republicans who defended his right to speak, even if they said they didn't agree with him or what he said. He thanked Ted Cruz. He thanked Rand Paul. He thanked Mitch McConnell. He thanked Ben Shapiro. He even thanked Candace Owens. I mean, he went a long way in reaching out to Republicans. I wish they were on the show last night. I would have loved to have seen Clay Travis, Ben Shapiro, Rand Paul.
That might
Cruz
happen.
would. If Ted Cruz comes on this show, there you go, some ratings, and we'll talk about this later. That's a great step for Jimmy to take next. Kimmel also thanked Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, Howard Stern, 3 people who were also targeted by the government and fined for obscenity.
Yeah, he also mentioned his employer, Disney, ABC.
A lot of courage. I know they were hammered right away, but they deserve a lot of credit for standing up to the administration.
He said they didn't have to do this. They didn't have to let me come back, and they did, and he thanked them for that. You know who didn't see this? A lot of viewers, almost 1 in 5 broadcast homes last night. No Jimmy Kimmel. That's because 2 of the biggest ABC station owners in the country preempted the show. Nexstar owns 28 ABC stations. Sinclair owns 38. That includes cities like Nashville, Salt Lake City, Hartford, Connecticut, New Orleans, Charleston, South Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Portland, Oregon, and more. So viewers in those markets, they had to watch his monologue on YouTube. And in the comments section, one viewer said, "Thank you for posting this so soon for those of us in blackout markets." Now, Sinclair said it was still in discussions with ABC. Nexstar said it had no plans to air Kimmel indefinitely. That translates to potential lost revenue, though, for Nexstar, Sinclair, and the ABC network. Those precious ad dollars. Insiders say Nexstar is trying to close a $6.2 billion merger with Tegna, another major TV station owner, and doesn't want FCC or other federal regulators to slow things down. Yeah, so there are business deals involved that people are pointing to as the reason why these station owners decided to not air the show.
Clearly. And also we should point out Sinclair, from what I'm told from several insiders in the industry, has merger plans as well that would require Brendan Carr's sign off. And Alisyn, I know you don't love sports stories, but one thing to watch here. ESPN needs regulators' requirement for its acquisition of NFL Media, NFL Network, and the NFL would take a 10% stake in ESPN. Front Office Sports, a very reputable outlet, says that is being held up by the administration. So ABC took a big stand here. And what happens next with that, the world should watch, because there is no reason to turn that deal from regulators I've spoken to. So if it is turned down by the administration, it is going to be clear for all to see that the word Jimmy used last night was authoritarian, and that will be on display.
I mean, ding, 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 ding. I'm so glad you gave that context, both of you, because follow the money. There's always, as of late, there is such a subtext with all of these multi-billion-dollar mergers that need to be taken into account. These are not just editorial decisions. These are not just let the marketplace decide decisions. These are these huge corporate overlord decisions, and you can't look at this story without adding that context, I think.
And Jimmy also went after the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr,
last gloves
night
were off in that
his
respect.
monologue specifically, and did a spoof with Robert De Niro as the new FCC chair, making as a sort of a mob boss, and telling Jimmy what he needed to do if he wanted to stay on the air.
One last context on the numbers. Almost 6 million right now overnight. So what are we going to compare that to? To me, the only modern day example would be the Taylor Swift New Heights podcast when she returned to talk about her new album. It had 13 million in the first 24 hours.
Right.
Guessing Jimmy's going to come very close, if not surpass that number, and 23 million altogether, which puts it in one of the most watched podcasts of all time. So it'll be right there among the most watched all time in the first 24 hours and of this matter ever.
We should do a ticker with the views on YouTube throughout the next couple of hours.
We will.
Yeah.
We will.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's
It's so interesting because frankly, this is such a sign of our times that, you can try to preempt him on broadcast television and you can try to stop the message and stop people from seeing it. But in our new world of social media, that can't happen now.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You can't really silence anybody anymore.
No, you just go somewhere else. Where can I find it? Where can I find it? Go to your device. All right. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to speak with a former late night executive about Sinclair, Nexstar, and what could be next for Kimmel and ABC, Alisyn.
All right. So as you guys have been talking, Jimmy Kimmel, as you said, did not shy away from going after FCC Chair Brendan Carr, or how Carr had issued that threat before all of this. He had said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. That was on a podcast before ABC removed Kimmel. And of course, many affiliates heard that as, oh, we should take him off the air. Kimmel made a joke about it, but someone who thought that it was no laughing matter was Joe Rogan. So here is what Rogan said on his podcast hours before Kimmel's return.
Like, first of all, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Now, if the problem is the companies, if they're being pressured by the government, so if that's real, and if people on the right are like, yeah, go get them, oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this, because this will be used on.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point that Rogan warned the conservatives. Of course, this could end up backfiring on conservatives. It could end up backfiring on anyone because the balance of power always shifts. And then the rules, if you liked it, if you liked the punishment against the other guys, when the balance of power shifts, it comes back to you. So that was his point.
And that was the point Ted Cruz made several days earlier. And I got to say, I know there are plenty of critics of Ted Cruz out there. That took a lot of courage. He was the first one to really stand up and call this out as mafioso language. This is a guy who's on the Commerce Committee. This is a guy who's a Supreme Court clerk. So a lot of credit goes to Ted Cruz.
What about Donald Trump? What did he have?
Okay. So an hour before the show, President Trump blasted, this will not surprise you, ABC and Kimmel. He went on his own social media platform saying, quote, the White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled, exclamation point. So he's not happy that Jimmy Kimmel is back. Then this, quote, who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He also called Kimmel, quote, yet another arm of the DNC. And to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. The last time we went after them, they gave me $16 million.
Yeah, and I wonder if ABC regrets that, that payout over the George Stephanopoulos misspeak, or look, it was not truth that Stephanopoulos spoke on that program. I wonder if they regret that, and I wonder if right now they are drawing a line in the sand. It sure feels that way.
I wonder who from ABC told the White House the show was definitely canceled. Do we believe that the network actually told White House officials, oh, he's done?
Well,
that would need to be second
thing
sourced.
That everyone on the right said he was fired. And even in Ted Cruz's defense of Kimmel, he said he was fired. So there was some mixed language there. And it's not entirely
misinformation. Yeah.
Right. Obviously this story is going to be with us throughout the day, throughout the next couple of hours. Really looking forward to hearing from a veteran from late night about what he has to say about how Jimmy Kimmel has handled this, how the network has handled this, and the reaction to it.
I would add one last thing, and I know we could talk about it for 3 hours. He had a very emotional plea to Erica Kirk, to Jimmy Kimmel. He was touched. He was moved by Erica Kirk forgiving her husband, Charlie's assassin. Boy, that was maybe the biggest moment for me personally that gave me goosebumps. A lot of outreach. If I could add one more potential guest, Erica Kirk on Jimmy Kimmel would be something this nation, not just Kimmel and ABC need, but I think the nation would love to see.
That would certainly.
That's such a great point, Dave. I love your booking suggestions for
You're welcome,
Kimmel,
Jimmy.
because no, I'm not kidding. I mean, they really, if they're not doing that, they're really overlooking a powerful opportunity, not just with Erica Kirk, but as you were saying, get Ben Shapiro, get Joe Rogan, get whomever from a different perspective. That is what this moment calls for, because let's face it, this isn't really about Jimmy Kimmel. This is about civil discourse. It's about freedom of speech. It's about what the limits are. What are we willing to put up with? So that would be a wonderful opportunity. I hope Kimmel's listening this morning.
Yeah, it was really emotional. Of course, I read some comments that they were fake tears, but it certainly
not a
felt
chance,
genuine.
Man.
in terms of the emotion he was feeling when he, mentioned her forgiveness.
He was emotional right away after the shooting. For anyone that goes back and remembers his original reaction, he was choked up about what happened. So we want you to chime in on our question of the day. Should Jimmy Kimmel have apologized on his first show back after suspension? Yes or no? You see the code right there on your screen. Get out your smartphone and please vote. Now, of course, I think to Alisyn's point, one could argue that he very much did apologize, though he didn't use the word. So that is,
Yeah, I mean, we may
difficult
have to
question
define
to
that.
answer.
I totally agree,
Yeah.
Dave. Like we may have to define it because I thought that was as emotional a mea culpa as you get on television.
question.
He was crying and he said it was never my intention to cause this kind of harm. So that sounds like an apology to me. But
And
anyway, we'll see what the viewers say.
And in contrast to what might be the worst apology I've ever seen, Brian Kilmeade, when he apologized for saying that we should have lethal injection of Americans,
Homeless people.
that
Yeah.
he used the word sorry and was far less sorry than Jimmy Kimmel was, who did not use that word. So the word is overrated in this case.
Let's check out what else is going on around the country. The man accused of attempting to kill President Donald Trump last year, now found guilty on all the charges against him. Ryan Ruth was facing 5 charges, attempted to stab himself in the neck. Did you see this? With a pen after the verdict was handed down, captured by courtroom artists. He was forcibly removed from the courtroom. His daughter was screaming, "I love you. Don't do anything, Dad. I'll get you out." She said he didn't hurt anybody. Ruth will be sentenced in December and faces life in prison. On True Social, President Trump congratulated law enforcement for taking that man down.
Guys, listen to this. I don't know if you were in or around New York yesterday, but it was mayhem because of the UN General Assembly. There was tons of traffic, and now the Secret Service says that they actually foiled a telecommunications plot to cause a massive cell phone blackout. Tens of thousands of devices almost wiped out cell networks in New York City just before the UN General Assembly meeting yesterday, where President Trump spoke. Investigators say they found more than 300 co-located SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards just miles away from the General Assembly meeting. So it's not clear, but it appears that it was meant to disrupt the meeting. No arrests yet in connection with this. Can you imagine? I mean, there was so much traffic and gridlock, and then not to be able to use your cell phone if that had happened. That's scary stuff.
I said to my wife, a reason maybe you should keep a landline in your home.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
No, a lot of people don't, obviously.
Oh, I
anymore.
do.
Do you?
I do, guys. If you need to call me, I'm right here.
Okay.
I'm
Text
keeping
the
this
number.
forever. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll put that out during the commercial break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's check in with AccuWeather meteorologist Alex De Silva for a check on our coast-to-coast forecast. Good morning, Alice. What's going on?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, we're still tracking a big dip in the jet stream across the middle of the country, bringing a lot of rainfall, a lot of showers and thunderstorms, anywhere from the middle Mississippi Valley all the way up to portions of the Northeast. And the good news is a lot of these areas are in drought, so we desperately need the rain in a lot of these areas. But sometimes we're getting a little bit too much, and it is causing some flooding. So if you're out there, please be careful, especially in the middle Mississippi Valley over the next day or so, as there could be some heavy rain in that area. There could also be some severe weather in that area during the day today across anywhere from Houston all the way to Memphis and then even up to Cincinnati. We'll just have to keep an eye out for some localized strong thunderstorms in those areas there. And then if we check on the tropics here, we are still tracking Gabrielle way out in the Atlantic here. You can see way out in the Atlantic. This is going to be heading towards the Azores here by the end of the week. And then believe it or not, it's going to keep going towards Portugal here. So it's not too often that we get a storm heading all the way to Portugal. Now, I don't think it's going to be tropical by the time it arrives there, but it still could bring some heavy rain and gusty winds to Portugal starting late this week and into the weekend.
All right, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, Connecting America is just getting started. So up next, New Jersey is actually considering a ban on cell phones in the classrooms. So we're going to take a look when we come right back. Welcome back to Connecting America, everyone. Guys, there was a lot of news yesterday. It wasn't just the highly anticipated Jimmy Kimmel comeback. There were lots of things to talk about and controversial statements, including medical advice from President Trump.
Yeah, specifically about one non-prescription medication.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
On Monday, Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr. made headlines for a very different reason, suggesting a link between autism and acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol. The president warned parents strongly, do not take Tylenol, do not give it to your children. But the medical community says the science does not support that claim. Yesterday, we spoke with Dr. Pao Coley, adjunct professor at St. Johns Hopkins and Duke University, to break down what we know and what we don't about Tylenol, vaccines, and autism.
Because what we've known for some time, that Tylenol, which is also acetaminophen, that's the generic name, does have a link with autism spectrum disorders. And that's what I call a correlation or an association. Now, notice I'm not saying causation, which means we don't have science that proves that it causes autism spectrum disorders. So could the Tylenol just be a marker of risk, a marker of something else like infection or fever or migraine that's actually causing the risk? And the Tylenol itself is not causing the risk. That's called confounding, because we know for a fact that science has proven no causal link between vaccines and autism spectrum disorders. We know for a fact that these vaccine schedules, which have been around for decades, have eradicated diseases like polio and until earlier this year, measles. So I feel like ignoring the vaccine schedules is poking the bear.
Dr. Coley said she still recommends Tylenol use for severe pain during pregnancy, but cautions moderation is the key. I asked her, if you were pregnant tomorrow, all the science she knows, every study she has read and could recite to you because her brain is bigger than ours. No disrespect. She said, I would take it tomorrow, and I would tell my family members to take it as well for pain.
Yeah, and I didn't go to medical school, and I readily admit that. So I turned to medical professionals for my advice about what to take and what not.
Best TV doctor in America. I've said it here, and I'll say it again.
All right, we do want to hear from all sides on Connecting America. Joining us is Jacqueline Capriotti, CEO of Health Revolution USA and a proud Maha mom. She also served as former National Director of Chronic Illness Outreach for RFK's, Robert Kennedy's campaign. Thanks for being here this morning, Jacqueline. We really appreciate it. What's your reaction to what President Trump and RFK Jr. said about linking Tylenol to autism and don't take it?
Well, first, thank you for having me on. And so what I would say is, well, it's been a while since I've been pregnant, but my kids are in their mid and late 20s. But I do remember that I did avoid caffeine. I avoided nitrates. I avoided sushi. Even retinol products that were over the counter for skincare, because there were some potential risks that weren't fully defined. There was a correlation, not a full causation that was completely spelled out with those products at that time. So because there was a potential maybe, I decided to not take that maybe, take that risk of a maybe, and just avoided it at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, Jacqueline, but you're jogging my memory of reminding me of when I was pregnant. You forgot soft cheeses. I remember that there was a moment where I was like, "What can I have? Broth?" You know, that there were so many things that posed a potential danger. The difference, I would say, with Tylenol is that it treats the fever, and what we were learning from our doctor is that doctors don't know if it's the Tylenol that is the link, the acetaminophen, or the underlying fever that is the link to birth defects. So all of the other things that you and I were avoiding were not medicinal. So it's complicated and also sometimes women are in pain and have a fever. So it's complicated to cut out the Tylenol. Your reaction to that?
And I agree with that, and I understand that, and that's why it's not it's a suggestion at this time. And they did indicate that they're planning on doing some intense research going forward. I mean, I think we should take a pause and admit that our FAERS and VAERS system, that is the tracking system of side effects on drugs and on our vaccines, are an abysmal mess. I mean, the CDC itself for over a decade or even more has said that that is what we do rely on for our side effect tracking, but it's not a good system. So we really do have to build up that system in order to be able to really understand how things are affecting post approval, even for OTCs. And now there's a lot of over the counter medications that are recommended that that there are just because something is over the counter doesn't make it automatically safe. Even something that is natural doesn't make it automatically safe. So I think that those are words that we've gotten so accustomed to being that, okay, because it's on the shelf at our local drugstore, we don't have to worry about it. But there are indications that we have to look at. We have to have conversations with our doctors. And I think at the end of the day, that is what's most important, is having a full conversation with our doctors and making that decision with them.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because I've I read a lot. I watch TV all day long. It's my job. I haven't heard a single doctor or medical association come out and support what the president or RFK are suggesting. Do you tend to agree with medical professionals and associations who went to medical school or elected officials?
Well, I have two children with cystic fibrosis, two adult children with cystic fibrosis. That is a life-threatening genetic disease. And every single decision that we make, we have to consult our doctors or the medical community. I mean, every single decision, including over the counter. And I look to certain people who are in the position at HHS, like Dr. Marty McCary. He is a physician who is an expert in gastroenterology, in solid organ transplants. He actually is one of the experts that has performed the transplant that my son had, which is a total pancreatectomy with an auto islet cell transplant. I think if anybody knows and understands what liver toxicity and how these medications could possibly potentially impact the body, would be him. So I do look at him for some guidance. I've looked at him actually for over a decade for guidance for my own children because of his background, since it's so closely connected to my kids. And there are scientists and doctors over at HHS. So, but at the same time, I do look to the full community, the medical community, who have actually failed my children and also championed my children. There are miracles in science that have given my kids decades and an incredible, better quality of life than they have. But then there are so many failures also that have happened too. At the end of the day, I think we have to just be a little humble and admit that, be it that it's an expert or a doctor or a layman, that we are all humans and we do have to find systems and have open conversations and not be afraid to talk about all of this like we are right now. So thank you for that.
Jacqueline, you said, this is a suggestion not to use Tylenol, but we definitely heard the president of the United States saying specifically, do not do it. Do not take Tylenol if you are pregnant. And the FDA's own website, though, points out a causal relationship has not been established and there are contrary studies in scientific literature. So doesn't this sow a lot of confusion for families about what the right thing to do is when you have a president who's not a medical professional telling you don't do something, and yet there's no scientific evidence that actually says Tylenol causes autism?
Well, I think he may have said that, but I did listen to what he said. They did say, if you can avoid it, don't take it, which sounds to me as a suggestion. But I will say this. I if I was pregnant and there was a chance that this could cause harm to my child, I'd rather know now that there is a potential chance, even if it's wrong, even if they pull it back, just to be able to have that potential knowledge to be able to spark that conversation with my doctor instead of finding out 3 years from now or 5 years from now or even 10 years from now that finally the science came out that it did potentially cause harm to my child that I could not reverse. That would be devastating to me. So to me, I'd rather have that suggestion up front and then work that through with my doctor and go from there.
Jacqueline
Yeah.
Capriati, we appreciate you coming on the program and discussing this. Jim, let me just make one personal
Jacqueline, I just want to say,
observation.
Jacqueline, I just want to tell Jacqueline, we really do appreciate you sharing your
Yeah.
personal story also and
Yeah.
having the conversation because, guys, I think that for a long time you can't have this conversation on national TV because it's so scary. You only want to follow the science. And Jacqueline is saying, like, moms have been talking about this stuff for a long time. So I appreciate you bringing it to us and being willing to have the conversation, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
One observation I had that some took as a cheap shot. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on it. What scared me maybe the most in this bizarre press conference and was the president, and this isn't a cheap shot, the president struggling with the word acetaminophen. And the reason that scares me, and I think should scare you, but I want you guys to weigh in, is if I tripped over that word, that would tell you what? I didn't recognize it.
Right.
I hadn't read it. We read dozens of articles in preparation for this program. I would think politicians read dozens of studies, actual studies, let alone news articles, let alone discuss it with their staff. If you didn't recognize that word, that scares me. That's the active ingredient. That's the entire conversation. Am I overemphasizing the president not recognizing that word, or is it just me?
Alisyn?
Well, President Trump famously doesn't read the research. He likes to be briefed verbally. We know this from his first administration, and even in terms of the daily presidential briefing, people come in and brief him. There are different kinds of learners. I think it's well known that he's not a visual reading learner. So I don't know that it means that he has never been briefed. I do think acetaminophen is a hard word, but I don't know that it means that he's never been briefed about it. But I think that Dave, the point,
But you
I
have
think
to
the
read
larger
here.
point, no, he
Don't you
does.
have to read to
I
understand the
don't
story?
think, I don't think that the president is a reader. I think the president is somebody who one-on-one talks things out and gets verbally briefed. But either way, you don't, as the president, as you have pointed out before, he's not a medical professional. He should never say do or don't something medically. That's just not wise.
All right. Acetaminophen. It is a hard word.
It is a hard
It's
word.
a hard word.
If you don't recognize it in
Exactly.
particular.
All right. Coming up next, it is World FTD Awareness Week. But what exactly is that rare brain disease and how does it relate to dementia? We're going to talk to a doctor after the break.
And welcome back, everybody, to Connecting America, coming to you from the Sunrise Diner in beautiful Roselle Park, New Jersey, as well as my global home quarters. Okay, so this next story is a cautionary tale, really for everyone, including world leaders. Do not mess with the NYPD, okay?
Especially
So
not this week.
French President Emmanuel Macron had to learn this the hard way. This is this week. It's viral video of Macron in New York for the United Nations General Assembly, and a police officer will not let him cross the barricade. Okay, even though he is Macron, Emmanuel Macron, and even he's calling here. We're told President Trump, and Macron is telling him that he's being blocked. But President Trump did not fix that. So even having friends in high places, guys, did not help President Macron.
This is so relatable, though. If you've been trying to move around anywhere in New York City during UN week, it's just you come across these hard freeze zones, and there's nothing you can do about it. And apparently he couldn't.
Okay,
either.
are rules rules, or should that cop go, oh my God, this is the French president, come with me?
He even said,
as a matter of public safety, I would think it would be come with me.
Escort him across.
Yes.
Yeah. He said to him, look, if you don't see the motorcade coming, let me go. No.
If only he'd have given
Also-
the phone to the officer when Trump was on the phone. That would have been perfect.
That would have been great. But also, I would be have just said, I have business to do at the UN General Assembly. Can you just escort me over there? I'm here for that. But I guess, the cops are like, a rule's a rule.
Yeah. Apparently he did not get help in calling the president. Well, the president was busy anyway. He was speaking at the UN General Assembly, as we know, used his time there to air, a lot of grievances and also issue some warnings to world leaders. He spoke for nearly an hour. That was a lot longer than he was slated to speak. He criticized immigration policies, environmentalists, even windmills. He questioned whether the UN should exist at all, and he dismissed climate change as a, quote, con job, and he praised coal. He personally insulted leaders from London to Brazil, and then he turned to the assembly with just a very blunt message. Take a listen.
Prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did. They repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Now, I wish we could have seen the looks on some of those specific faces of
I saw some.
Yeah.
I saw some. I would say I would define it as confounded.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I saw there.
Yep, that was my face as well when I watched. Confounded would be a good description, Alisyn.
But now, hold on. I mean, do we think that this is because the prompter went out, right? The teleprompter, which all the world leaders use, I believe, did it glitch and go out?
Back.
It came back.
Yeah, it was fully back, the
theory.
entire substance portion of this speech.
And he also had it in front of him in a notebook.
Right, but I thought that he had gone way over 4 times as long as was expected because he was riffing, because the prompter was out. But how long was it out for? Do we know?
He did riff well beyond what the teleprompter said, but it was back for the entirety of the substantial part of that speech.
Also made a lot of news outside of that fiery speech. He announced a major policy shift on Ukraine in its war with Russia. This is after he met with Ukraine's President Zelensky. President Trump posted on Truth Social, he now believes Ukraine can recapture all its territory. And he pointed to Russia's economic troubles and Ukraine's, quote, great spirit. Zelensky, he called this a big shift. He said this is very positive. France's President Macron also praised this move. Trump summed it up with a simple message: let them get their land back. This bears repeating. This is a seismic shift in the president's stance and tone about this Russia-Ukraine war. As we know, he was pushing for those peace talks and for Ukraine to give up some land that Russia had seized in the war.
Words are important, and this is a dramatic shift from just 2 weeks ago calling this Zelensky's war. Actions are far more important here. He has still not said anything bad about Vladimir Putin. Call him the murderer he is. And Republicans have been banging on the table for months. Pass these sanctions that will punish Russia, that will hurt their economy, and they can't get a single response from the president. So actions here are far more important than words. And UN countries are saying, okay, so if we take action, will you have our back? And they're very afraid that we may not. So a substantial shift in tone.
Well,
Yeah.
I would just also caution everyone that President Trump is not known for consistency with his positions. He can often be quite swayed and influenced by whoever the last person in the room is. His staff has described this. This is not a new revelation that I'm coming up with. So he spoke to Zelensky, and President Zelensky is quite convincing in terms of his position and what Ukraine needs. So, of course, President Trump was affected and influenced by that. But I don't know that this is a new position that will hold. If he were to talk to President Putin today, we might hear something different.
But let's think back to that Oval Office meeting with Zelensky and how they took Zelensky to task and said, "You don't have the cards to win this." To yesterday. And there they are, the two of them, after President Trump's speech at the UN. So, yeah, definitely a change in tone. We'll see if this carries through in any way. Let's talk about some other news, Alisyn and Dave. The New Jersey Department of Education has released some new guidelines for school districts to limit these cell phone use during the school day. The recommendations call for clear policies, input from parents and teachers, and lessons on responsible use, all with the goal of improving learning and protecting students' well-being, including their mental health. Local school districts would, of course, have to approve any kind of ban like this. You were applauding.
I love these policies, and we all should. Joining us now to break it all down is our psychologist, Dr. Jeffrey Gardier. Doctor, good to see you, sir. Listen, I mean, we're seeing this in LA, we're seeing this in New York, we're seeing it across the country. What stood out to you in this new guidance, though, from New Jersey?
Well, the guidance, Dave, is that simply they want to buy in from the community. They want to buy in from the different schools, from the students themselves, and from the teachers. And this is how you empower people to follow a plan that can be very, very productive. The other thing is they're basing all of these suggestions and policies on research and best practices, what we call evidence-based. And that is something that is truly remarkable and really positive.
But Dr. Gardier, I mean, there's also our kids, let's face it, are going to school in an often dangerous setting. Going to school has gotten scarier and more dangerous for kids than it was when we went. And so the idea that, I mean, I'm sorry, we can't ignore the idea of violence and school shootings. And so the idea that you're away and can't access your cell phone also makes some parents and kids nervous. What's the balance?
Yeah, it does make them very, very nervous. It doesn't make Dave nervous, obviously, because he appears to be for it, as am I. I guess the bottom line is parents can feel safer if they know what the written guidelines are as far as detailed phone use policies, what the school-wide emergency systems are that can put the kids in contact with their parents and ensure them that during an emergency, either through robocalls or text alerts or apps, that they will have student access points. So that you really can now walk and chew gum at the same time.
It's not that I'm not concerned. I just don't think a cell phone keeps you safe in those instances. And I've heard dozens of kids in every corner of the country say, this worked. I feel better. I'm more engaged. They've talked about being happier, but is there research that shows the impact of taking away cell phones in the classroom?
Yes, absolutely. What we tend to find, and I'll tell you just the anecdotal evidence that you've given, Dave, is the bottom line is, and we had someone on Connecting America talking about this, that when there was a cell phone ban, the students were much more focused. They appeared to really want to understand their academic lessons, and they were socially interacting. But what we tend to see is if we can have some sort of a phone ban and something that is reasonable as far as the particular community, that the students are absolutely doing better as far as academics and social interaction.
Any advice for parents who are worried about being able to reach their kids during a school day if there's an emergency?
Yeah, I would say parents, look, you can protect your child while respecting the school limits. And the way that you do that is to trust the school systems, know what they are, be part of that process, set clear rules at home and precautionary measures. If you see something, say something, be able to understand what the schools have as far as being able to connect with parents and focus on quality connection after school rather than constant contact during school hours.
All right, Dr. Jeff
Thanks, Doc.
Verdier. Appreciate
Yep, thank you. And by the way, I can say acetaminophen.
Excellent.
Bravo, sir.
Good job.
Well done.
Coming up next to look at why grocery shopping seems to be a lot more expensive than it used to be. Connecting America. We'll be right back.
And welcome back, everyone, to Connecting America. You see the guys in the diner. Guys, have you had breakfast yet? What's up? Where are the plates?
Oh,
No,
good
we've
point.
just been
And I need a refill.
we've just been dealing with the caffeine here this morning, Alisyn. Dave needs a refill.
Okay.
Priscilla.
Wow. Dave's actually licking the inside of that cup. Okay. We'll get you guys, we'll get you a refill. Also, caffeine, I think, has been shown to have some positive effects on the brain. And in other news, most of you have probably never heard of frontotemporal degeneration. I hope I said that right. It's known as FTD. FTD. This is a rare but devastating brain disease, and it does affect thousands of Americans and their families. It's also one of the common forms of early onset dementia. So we want to talk about this, particularly people have been thinking about this more because of Bruce Willis and his diagnosis. So to tell us more about FTD, we're joined by Dr. Shana Dodge, Director of Research Engagement at the Association for FTD. So Dr. Dodge, we, because of Bruce Willis's disclosure and his wife's, painful testimonials about what their family is going through with Bruce Willis's mental decline. Help us understand what FTD is and how it differs from other forms of dementia.
Sure, thank you, and good morning. So, FTD typically manifests or gets diagnosed between the ages of 45 and 64, making it the leading cause of young onset dementia compared to something like Alzheimer's, which people tend to be more familiar with, which is a type of dementia that tends to be more associated with older age. And also, unlike Alzheimer's, memory often remains intact in FTD, whereas
So, what are some of the early signs or symptoms that families should be aware of with this?
Sure. Well, FTD is a progressive disorder, so symptoms do worsen over time. But early signs may include seemingly minor personality or speech changes that are often dismissed. As FTD advances, additional types of symptoms tend to emerge that impact things like thinking, behavior, personality, language, or motor function, movement.
Where's the research here on potential cures or even medicines that may lessen the impact?
Yes, well, it's a very exciting time in FTD research, although we don't have any approved therapies right now. There are a number of clinical trials underway that test both symptomatic interventions, things that can help with the challenging symptoms of FTD, as well as treatments that are being tested right now that could potentially stop or slow the progression of FTD. So we're in a very exciting time, and people with FTD should certainly talk to their neurologist, their clinical team, to see if there's a clinical trial they may be interested in.
That's so, excuse me, that's so good to know, Dr. Dodge, because when we watch Bruce Willis's decline and other people's, obviously it feels so hopeless. So it's nice to know that there are some things in the pipeline and some breakthroughs. Thank you very much for coming on to educate us about it.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about grocery prices. They are climbing faster than we've seen in nearly a year now. And many shoppers are feeling that strain on their budgets, that's for sure. A new USA Today report looks at how grocery prices have gone up by 29%. That's since before the COVID-19 pandemic.
At a time when we're told inflation has been solved. We're joined by USA Today's national consumer reporter, Betty Lynn Fisher, to talk about her story. Betty, thanks for joining us this morning. What's driving this recent spike?
Good morning. So, there's actually a lot of things that have been happening. So before even we started talking about inflation and tariffs, there were supply chain issues after COVID-19. There was Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which affected commodity and energy prices. There was the bird flu that affected egg prices. And then there's climate change, which there has been some droughts that have affected beef and coffee prices.
Yeah, I mean, Betty Lynn, this is I appreciate that this is multifaceted and that you can't just flip a switch. So can we it's interesting to go back in terms of the timeline to before COVID-19, but it's hard not to inject politics. What about President Trump and his policies? Have you seen those helping or hurting inflation?
So, I think that currently, of course, current policies and tariffs are affecting prices that were already going up. So we'll use coffee as an example. Coffee prices were already starting to go up because of drought conditions in Brazil. Brazil actually supplies 30% of the United States coffee. And then now Brazil is subject to a 50% tariff. So you're going to have to expect that those prices are going to increase because those producers are going to turn those prices over to consumers.
Dave and
Coffee's
I
up
have often
20% year over year. 20%.
That hurts us, Dave, because we like our
I'm
coffee.
a 3, 4, sometimes 5 cup a day guy.
Betty, do you have any tips for consumers what they can do, if anything, to try to stay within their budget?
Yeah, so I talked to David Ortega, who's a professor and a food economist at Michigan State. He gave a couple of suggestions. People always are going to be looking for deals. Compare prices when you're at the store, and consider moving to store brands or private label brands, because often they are very similar to the name brands, and you're not really going to compromise much on your quality.
I wish you had some
Got it.
tips on how to get your son to stop eating a pound of beef every day. Betty Lynn Fisher, thank you for being here. Please read her story on usatoday.com. Excellent work. Really appreciate you joining us here.
Dave, I think that what you need to realize is you have a teenage son. I had one of my best friend's moms said that she wished that teenage food could just come in one of those big bulk dry bags.
Yes.
And you could just like scoop it into a bowl and add water, because that's what teenage food is, like that. You're going to be in this situation for a while
long
with your
time.
son. Yeah.
Oh, he's out of the house next year.
Yeah.
So I just don't remember eating this way. A pound of beef last night, Jimbo.
It'll be on your bill from college for food service coming up.
Right.
That's true. That's right. All right, everybody. We're going to be back at the top of the hour. As the diner fills up, we're going to talk to some diners there at the Sunrise Diner. Any minute, Dave, any minute. It's getting to be breakfast time there. So we'll be right back.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Good morning. Welcome back to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Jim Rosenfield. Dave Briggs here with me at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. And the sun is out here outside the diner. Alisyn Camerota at her home quarters, her global home quarters.
Why is the sun not out here? Why is the sun only out where you guys are? What's that about?
Weather. That's weather, Alisyn. It's different in different locations.
Different. Interesting.
It is
Maybe
very
it's
sunny
because
here.
you're at some place called the Sunrise
Sunrise
Diner. Maybe the
Diner.
sun is actually rising over you
Exactly.
before here. That's
Is
what
there
I
any
think.
activity in your kitchen this morning? That's what we want to know, Alisyn.
No, not yet, not yet. But if everybody else is just waking up, we do have some big updates for everybody because we want to tell you what happened with Jimmy Kimmel and his return to the airwaves last night. It was, I think, fair to say, a triumphant return. Okay, at least inside the studio, he got this rousing, long standing ovation from obviously his very friendly studio audience, and he started with the words, as I was saying before I was interrupted, which was a funny bit
Clever.
to start with. Clever, yeah. And then he launched into this 6.5 minute monologue. Well, no, sorry, longer than 6.5 minutes, but it took 6.5 minutes before he got to his mea culpa, which I think a lot of people were tuning in to see, was he going to apologize? Was he not going to apologize for his controversial comments? So here's what he said.
I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human. And that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't, ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers, because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about...
Kimmel went on to say his show is not that important, but what was important was living in a country that allows him to have a show like that. He also went out of his way to thank his fellow late night hosts and named them all. He also thanked Republicans who defended his right to speak, even if he said they didn't agree with him or what he said, specifically Ted Cruz among them. He singled him out.
Yeah, he singled out Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul. And that was very important, I think, to reach out to the other side, if you will. An hour before the show, President Trump blasted ABC and Kimmel on social media saying, quote, the White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He called Kimmel, quote, yet another arm of the DNC. And to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. Quick reminder, political satire on late night comedy shows is older than any of us here. It's been going on for decades and decades and decades against both parties. And this is the first time it's ever been a true political issue.
Right. And so here's something really important for everyone to keep in mind, the backdrop against which all of this is happening. Jimmy Kimmel's return to late night was not seen by viewers in basically 1 out of every 5 broadcast TV homes last night. And that's because 2 of the biggest ABC station owners in the country preempted Kimmel. So that's Nexstar. They own 28 ABC stations, and Sinclair, which owns 38 stations. In other words, if you were in Nashville, Salt Lake City, Hartford, Connecticut, New Orleans, Charleston, South Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Portland, Oregon, and more, you did not see this. However, because we live in this new world order of social media and technology, viewers in those markets are watching now this morning his monologue on YouTube. Guys, the last number that we got from our producers, 6.8 million people. It's not even been 12 hours yet. 6.8 million people have seen it on YouTube.
Yeah, one viewer there said, thanks for posting this so soon for those of us in blackout markets. Now, Sinclair said it was still in discussions with ABC. Nexstar just said it had no plans to air Kimmel indefinitely. But that translates to potential lost revenue for Nexstar, Sinclair, and the ABC television
I'm also
network.
curious if ABC contractually will have an issue with what they're doing. Typically, they have to air certain types of programming that they pay millions for. I'll be curious what happens in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, let's remember, this is, again, all against the backdrop of this merger. So there's a $6.2 billion merger that hangs in the balance. Okay. Nexstar is trying to merge with Tegna, and that's another major TV station owner. And they need the FCC and Brendan Carr's approval to do that.
And ABC theoretically needs administration approval for ESPN's acquisition of NFL Media, NFL Network, and NBC, the NFL would take a 10% stake in ESPN. Front Office Sports has reported that the administration and the FCC is holding that up as related to Jimmy Kimmel. So this will be for the world to see.
You know, we have a great guest who has great insight on all of this landscape around late night television. We're joined by Vinny Favale, the former head of late night programming at CBS, one of the founders of Comedy Central, worked closely with David Letterman. Howard Stern was there for the launch of the now soon to be canceled Stephen Colbert Late Show. Vinny, thanks so much for joining us once again here on Connecting America. Boy, you know about the inner workings of networks. Bring us inside. What do you think that conversation was like between ABC and Jimmy Kimmel with his attorney there and his manager there? Why did they bring him back, do you think?
Well, the way the whole thing played out now in retrospect, and it probably wasn't intentional on ABC's part, is incredible. I think at a certain point, pulling him off the air woke everybody up. When they were attacked, when Trump sued them for the George Stephanopoulos statements that they ended up paying money for, a lot of legal experts say ABC could have easily had won that. That was a quick cave-in. In this case, it turned up the heat on everyone, including themselves, obviously. And this is a big moment for Dana Walden because she's one of the executives in line to replace Iger. And if this thing blows up, and it's not over yet. I mean, last night was an incredible TV, an incredible moment, but I think this is far from over with all that you guys just laid out. But I'm really happy that Kimmel made clear that even while he was thanking ABC for the support over the years, he was not happy about being pulled off the air. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
And so,
and I like.
Yeah, go ahead. You can finish your thought, Vinny.
I just like that he didn't bend the knee to Disney as well. He's like, look, because it's such an easy victory. As you mentioned earlier, there are contracts. The affiliates can't cherry pick the programming. You have to take everything. If you have a problem with something, and we've had it in the past where maybe there was something topical and Dave made a joke and one affiliate was upset, they would sue for a night, they would maybe yank the show, and that was it. You can't do it. So I think ABC, hopefully in those talks with Kimmel, felt they had the confidence to support him in court if they had to.
Oh, that's interesting. And so, Vinny, I mean, who was the ultimate decision maker here? Bob Iger? How did this happen? Behind the scenes, who said this is enough is enough? We're not going to acquiesce to, FCC pressure. Do you have any sense of who the ultimate decision maker would have been?
Ultimately, I think it would be Bob Iger and Dana Walden, or Bob Iger letting Dana Walden make the decision because she's the head. She's oversees that whole part of Disney. But I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision. But again, taking him off the air was really brilliant. It's almost like, you can't fire me, I quit. Okay, now you have to deal with the fact that I just walked out the door, and you may have been responsible for over 200 people losing their jobs. Which, again, I love that Jimmy name checked that as well. Like these guys who are trying to keep unemployment, down, are literally firing people, getting people fired. Like Colbert. I love that Kimmel mentioned Colbert twice last night. I still can't believe we're not talking about Colbert. I know it's not as sexy as the Kimmel thing. And that was a case where a corporation, Paramount or CBS at that point, before the joining, caved in and said, no, we agree with you. We want this deal to go through, and we don't like this guy, so we're good with that, And I hope people turn it back to Colbert, because it's insane.
I have talked to a couple close to the situation that made no mistake. This is a Bob Iger 100% call, just from what I've told, and it should be. What did you make? There was so many of you asked, would Jimmy apologize? Yes, he did not say the word, but it was heartfelt and it was also pointed. What was your assessment of that monologue?
The monologue was so great because it started off with the joke. Yeah, I love when they do those compilation news clips, just to bring everyone up to date, and then you cut to Jimmy backstage with those costumes. Yeah, that was great. I thought it was funny. It was all the beats that Letterman was so good at. Like the closest I could come to it, and it's not really the same thing, but when Letterman did the first show after 9/11, no one knew what was going to happen. I'm sure the same with Kimmel. What's he going to say? What's he going to do? And of course, Letterman did an amazing job with that. I love the fact that Kimmel's version of an apology was, for those of you that took it the wrong way, I hear you. It's like, I hear you, not like, I'm sorry if it offended you. That's the cliche that people say, where the non-apology apology. And the way Kimmel did it was so pitch perfect. I would be mad too. It's like, I hear you. And then reading the letter from Disney, and I didn't know where that was going to go, and hitting on reconnecting instructions on how to reconnect your Disney Plus and Hulu. That ABC, the execs had to be high-fiving each other, because it really was. It was beautifully done. It was perfect.
We know his contract runs through 2026, I believe. Do you think he is thinking ahead to, do I want to stick around after all this? Does this put some more gas in the tank for continuing beyond 26? And will the network want him to re-sign? What do you think might happen there?
That's a great expression, putting gas in the tank, because it sounded like Kimmel had been thinking about winding it down. He's got so many other interests and so many other things that he could do. And I know he's doing, I think, a YouTube show or something about conspiracies, a rabbit hole. But I think it added fuel to the fire. And, 26 is when his contract is up. And I think he might want to do a nice round number of whatever his anniversary is, 20th or 25th. I could see him staying on, and I'd be shocked if ABC didn't want him there. I mean, I know it's going to be rough going, but this was a line in the sand. And one more thing, I saw it last night on YouTube Live, the Kimmel thing. So you might want to research that, but I was watching it in real time on YouTube, which is, by the way, genius, because they could make it available even with, for the markets that are not getting it. They could make it, I think, IP driven, with the internet address. So yeah, I saw that last night.
And that's interesting, Vinny. And also, our producer just telling us that it's now up to 7 million views. We're not even 12 hours into this. So there's obviously a lot of interest in what Jimmy Kimmel had to say, because let's face it, it's not really about Kimmel. It's about freedom of speech. It's about if we're going to cancel comedians, all of that stuff. So the fact that there are now at least 58 stations that say they're not going to carry the Sinclair stations, et cetera. So will that end up affecting Kimmel? Will that end up affecting ABC? Will that go into their decision about what happens next? Or because of YouTube and social media, does it not matter?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. And then and Hulu especially, which they own. But yeah, if they should do a deal with YouTube and they could just fill in the blanks. And plus, I think his ratings are going to be higher because of all of this, not just for last night, but moving forward. And that could make up for some of the loss of rating from those markets.
All right, Vinny Favale, thank you for being here this morning on this important day for freedom of speech, late night television, and all of it.
And interesting note, I talked to Pete Dominic, longtime stand-up comedian, Sirius satellite host, and former Stephen Colbert warm-up guy. He wants to see some combination of Jimmy, Colbert, Stewart run for president. He is 100% serious about this. He knows them well. He feels these are the only men that could compete in this environment. I don't think that's so far from the truth.
Do they want that job?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, I think no. But could Jon Stewart win in this environment? I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Be quite the
Well,
campaign.
let's remember President Volodymyr Zelensky was a stand-up comic at one time before
Exactly.
he was the warrior for his country. So it happens.
Yeah.
It is possible. All right, we do want to hear your thoughts on all of this. So our question of the day: should Jimmy Kimmel have issued an actual "I'm sorry" apology on his first show after his suspension? He kind of danced around it. He definitely was emotional, but he didn't say the actual "I'm sorry." So yes or no. Yes, right now is 56% of you say yes, 44% say no. You see that QR code on the bottom of your screen. You just scan that with your mobile phone and you can cast your vote, and we will check in throughout the hour.
Yeah, I'd argue what he did was far more important than saying the word sorry. You know, a kid's apology. Oh, fine, I'm sorry. Or how you do when you're spatting with your wife. Fine,
Doesn't
I'm
feel
sorry.
genuine.
Yes,
Doesn't.
that was genuine.
Yeah. All right. President Trump used his time yesterday at the United Nations to launch into his vision of a new world order. He spoke for nearly an hour, 4 times longer than he was slated to be speaking there. He criticized immigration policies, environmentalists, even windmills. He questioned whether the UN should exist at all. And he dismissed climate change as a, quote, con job. And he also praised coal during his remarks, Alisyn.
Outside of his fiery speech at the UN, President Trump made a big shift, huge, seismic, on policy towards Ukraine. After meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, President Trump posted on his Truth Social that he now believes Ukraine can, and it sounded like should, recapture all of its territory. So let's get our foreign correspondent Amy Kellogg in on this conversation. Amy, great to see you. What has been the seismic shifts in Europe to how President Trump seems to have done a 180?
Well, Alisyn, this lengthy Truth Social post really, if you will, trumped that very lengthy UN speech because it was such a dramatic departure from things that Trump has said in the past. He not only said that with NATO's support, Ukraine should be able to recapture the territory that Russia now holds. But he went on to say, and possibly then some, without giving any details, of course, about how that would happen. But he lashed out at Russia, saying that Russia is a paper tiger, not a real military power, and that its economy is in very, very dire straits. Now, it was interesting because he did not, in his speech, really make much mention of the Russia-Ukraine war at all. As you guys pointed out, it was about bashing climate change theories and green energy. But he did say something about Russia and the countries that are still buying Russian energy. Let's take a listen to Trump. I guess perhaps we don't have that comment, but he was effectively saying that the countries that are still buying Russian oil, namely Russia, China, and India, are really doing the wrong thing, and he is happy to sanction them. But he also pointed out that Europeans are still buying an awful lot of Russian oil
Amy,
and gas, and until
sorry to
they
interrupt. We
stop.
do have it, and then we'll get your reaction. We do have it. Here's President Trump at the UN.
Oh, good.
China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? Get there, we must reject.
And that is a point. Yeah, and that is a point that he's making, an important point. But back to that tweet that he put out after the speech and after meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, whom you may recall he previously lambasted back in February in that very uncomfortable Oval Office meeting for not having any cards to play at all. There are some people who are suggesting that because Trump at the end of the post says he wishes both sides good luck, he wishes everyone well, that perhaps not be about Trump amping up support for the Ukrainian cause, but rather about him washing his hands of the conflict. That we do not know, and we will wait to see. But what we do know is that President Zelensky, who will be speaking shortly at the United Nations today, was very excited about what Trump put out on that social media post last night and called Trump himself a quote, game changer.
Washing his hands of a war he said he would end within
Day one.
of his administration. So that's remarkable. Did he meet with anyone else of note, Amy, there at the UN?
He did, and it's interesting, Jim, to point out, and I'm sure you've all noticed that yourself. There's a lot of bombast. There's boasting, and there's high critique of everyone else effectively in his speeches in such formats like the UN yesterday. But then when you see him meeting with people one on one or in smaller groups, he appears very cordial with people. We did see him sitting with Turkish President Erdogan and the Emir of Qatar and some other leaders of Muslim nations to try to work out some progress on the war in Gaza. And he had an awful lot of meetings during the day. So I think, though, the biggest news remains that he put out this very supportive social media post in favor of Ukraine. The Kremlin has already responded to that, saying none of his allegations are true, that Russia is not a paper tiger, it is a bear, and there's no such thing as a paper bear. But Trump did say it, and we will see what sort of impact it has on this war in its third year, the war that, as Trump put it yesterday, should have ended in just a few days because Russia is such a bigger power than Ukraine. And it's amazing that Ukraine has held on as long as it has.
Amy, thank you very much. Yeah, for all the context. Great to talk to you as always.
We're going to take a break here. Coming up, we're going to look at the upcoming New Jersey governor's race, whether it could be a bellwether for how voters feel the country is doing. We'll be right back.
from Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli, right after asking a question about how the candidates would restore trust in government. But after the debate, this young man explained why he turned down the fist bump from Jack Ciattarelli.
But I just wanted to remain as nonpartisan as possible. I didn't want to state my political beliefs on live television.
Fair enough. He didn't want to look like he was taking sides. There's more.
Especially in this political climate, really no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you are going to get a lot of hate for whatever belief you have. Even if it was Mikey Sherrill giving me a fist bump, I wouldn't do it. If it was Jack, I wouldn't do it.
Now, all of this played out after this kid posed a sobering question to Ciattarelli.
I'm only 12, but I've already seen one of our U.S. senators go to prison. What's your vision for restoring public trust in government?
Wow. Talk about a major reality check. Even this 12-year-old can understand how toxic our political climate has become. What are your thoughts on this whole
President Trump has started.
Oh my gosh, guys. Can Connecting America hire that young man right now? That budding journalist, because he knew that even fist bumping Jack Ciattarelli would seem as though he was being friendly to him. And he didn't want to do that. I mean, that having those level of boundaries already is really remarkable. And the question was phenomenal too. And Mark Bonamo joins us in the diner now to talk about New Jersey politics. Mark, your thoughts on all of that?
Well, what that young man's reflecting on quite effectively is the idea that the country's really on edge going to this election. The country's very divided. He's talking about, hey, it might be in my best interest to try to prove to be neutral, but both candidates in this closely watched election are hoping no neutrality. Now's the time to pick a side.
Let's talk about the bigger issue in terms of this race specifically, potentially being a bellwether for the rest of the country when it comes to Democrats' chances in the midterms.
Right. Every 4 years, all eyes are on the New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial races, essentially because it's immediately after a presidential election and right before the midterms. Everyone wants to see which party is going to have the edge going to the midterms, and the midterms are going to be particularly critical at this juncture. So the Democrats really need a momentum surge. They really need a win coming into this election.
Is momentum shifting politically here in New Jersey towards the right? And what are the issues in this race, or is it simply about President Trump?
This election is interesting for the fact that Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic candidate up to this point, has had about maybe a 6 to 8% lead in the polls. But at the same time, you saw in the 2024 election that Donald Trump only lost this state, considered for a long time to be a Democratic state, by only about 6%. Democrats still have an overwhelming registration advantage of about 860,000 votes, but at the same time, there are over 2 million unaffiliated votes out there that both sides are trying to get.
Mark, I thought what was interesting about what that young man asked, he wasn't really talking about the toxicity of our politics, though we could talk about that all day long. He was talking about corruption. He was talking about how a politician in New Jersey has gone to prison. And there seems to be a lot of corruption stories on both sides right now. Does that play into this race at all?
It's interesting about corruption in New Jersey. We certainly have a very colorful reputation in this state. Recently, you saw Democratic U.S. Senator Bob Menendez go to jail. One of the more interesting details about it is the man had gold bars in his house and cash inside his jacket, like he's almost ready to go on the lam at any time. But what's interesting about New Jersey is what really matters to people. Yes, corruption's a factor in this state, but there are certain pocketbook issues that people really care about.
Such as, what are those?
Taxes. Taxes particularly. We have some of the highest property taxes in the nation. And also, the electric bills have gone up very significantly, 17 to 20%. They've gone up in recent weeks. The Democrats are saying, okay, this is a market flaw. We blame the grid for all of this. But at the same time, Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican candidate, is essentially, it's all the Democrats' fault. It's all Governor Phil Murphy's fault. It's his policies that have led to this pinch for directors. There's Jack Ciattarelli now, walking in a diner. Where are we now? A critical place where people want to see what New Jersey voters think. So again, there's Mikey Sherrill. Look, Phil Murphy. There he is, all his fault.
Yeah, that's from his ad. Alisyn?
Right.
Oh, just that. So I hear what you're saying, Mark. Basically, that corruption is not, while it seems rife right now through politics, people are more concerned about what's happening in their own kitchen table and with their own economics. It's always true. I mean, that is a fact. So right now, today, you're saying, just so I understand, Mark, that it's leaning towards the Democrat, Mikey Sherrill, but anything can happen in the next few weeks.
No, absolutely. And again, polls always vary. There was recently a Republican designed poll saying, well, this is a statistical tie. We'll have to see. Plus, historically in New Jersey, things always seem to flip.
Yeah.
A governor from the same party hasn't won for 3 terms in a row. Phil Murphy is term limited since 1961, since the early 1960s.
That's the point I wanted to ask you about. Alisyn's in Connecticut. I live in Connecticut. And the sense has been for years, if our governor runs again, it's over. Is Murphy popular here in New Jersey? Have his policies been popular and effective?
Phil Murphy's policies, it's controversial one way or the other. A lot of people think he could have done a lot better. He did well on legalizing recreational marijuana, but a lot of other policies seem to have failed, including wind projects in New Jersey trying to convert New Jersey to green energy were essentially abandoned. They failed.
What about transit? New Jersey
Oh
transit.
My God.
That's always a hot button
Right.
issue.
NJ Transit. I happen to live across the street from Newark Broad Street Station. I can hear people literally cry out in despair and anger when trains are canceled. No one tells you why, postponed, who knows? So Phil Murphy essentially said when he got into office, I will make the trains run on time or I will die trying. Phil Murphy is still alive at this point. So we have to see what's going to happen next. Whoever solves that is going to do well in the state.
No matter who you support in this race, the most disappointing part, heartbreaking to me, was Jackie Sherrill. We saw her military service being
Mikey
highlighted.
Sherrill, right.
Was almost booed off a stage when she was talking about her military service. Now, I hate to point sides. These were largely MAGA supporters. I've never seen anything like that from the Republican Party. Did that astound the political, all of us?
One of the major things that Mikey Sherrill's campaigning on is, look, I was a Navy helicopter pilot. You see a commercial where she's flying over the state. I'm in command. I can do this. But this is a particularly nasty time in our politics.
Oh, you're right.
Everyone's going to get booed for everything, and Jersey is particularly a rough climate to run for office at any time.
I will point out, polls have been very unreliable when it comes to Donald Trump, time after time after time. One thing has been right, though, Mark. Going back to 2016, the futures betting markets have nailed it every time. They nailed 2016. They nailed 2020 that he would lose. And right now,
you have something in your hand there?
This is called Kalshi. Kalshi,
Right.
Kalshi strictly takes the pulse of Americans.
Yeah,
right.
That's not a poll. The betting markets have an 85% chance of the Democrat Jackie Sherrill winning.
Yeah.
85-15. They have nailed just about every election we've seen going back to 2016. If Kalshi's right, this is not a race.
Rolling the dice on New Jersey politics is always a mistake. You could roll snake eyes at any time. Last election, Jack Ciattarelli was also the Republican nominee. Everyone thought Phil Murphy is going to win running away. Murphy only won by 3%.
Wow. Yes, it was close. Yeah.
Right. I predicted this time it should also be significantly closer than people think.
Good stuff, brother.
All
Great
right, Mark
to have you,
Bonama,
Mark.
thanks for being here. Let's get you some breakfasts.
Absolutely.
Coming up after the break, are you worried about AI taking your job?
Yep.
How about AI helping
weren't
you
asking me.
find your next job? You like the sound of that? All right, we'll explain when we come back.
Welcome back to a bustling Sunrise Diner here. It's a tough job market and even tougher for older Americans dealing with layoffs. Some job seekers are turning to AI to help land jobs in this tough job market. And joining us now is Alessandro Cozzi, CEO and co-founder of Hello I, an AI-driven career help startup. Alessandro, thanks so much for being here. Tell us about Hello I. What does your company do to help job seekers in a very difficult job market?
Absolutely, and thank you so much. So, in a nutshell, what Hello I is a career growth platform. So it is not just another tool that makes your resumes or that matches you with actually job searches out there. What Hello I does and why we're really different is that Hello I is your end-to-end career support. So from A to actually Z, and it is really human centric. So many AI tools out there are just task based. We are not task based. We are really outcome based. And so that's why our platform, it is not just only going to store who you are and what you have done, but it is going to understand you and understand where you could actually go. So that it can help you out not only when you need to actually land your next role, but also in surfacing, which are the skills that maybe you do have a gap with, or maybe helping you in tailoring resumes, but not only resumes, but documents in general.
Yeah.
And also
Well, that's what I was going
helping
to ask you,
you during your
Alessandro. I'm
current job.
sorry to interrupt, but in terms
Please.
of using AI for your resume and your cover letter, should you do that, or does it just become too generic sounding and it doesn't help you stand out? Like if it doesn't have that individual touch, is it good to use AI for resumes and cover letters?
That's precisely where I'm actually going. So meaning that so many AI tools out there, what are they just doing is they're just taking all the keywords that they can see in a job desk and then stuff them inside your resume and call it a day and then send it over to the company. Well, that's not what the company wants. What you just mentioned, so that the company wants you to actually answer to one specific question, which is, how can you help me out? Which are the things that inside the job desk that you can see actually here? Which are the things that you have done that really tie with what we are looking for? So in a nutshell, why should you be a good fit for us? And that's what Hello I it is actually doing. It is really building why you are a good fit for that specific role and storytelling to the hiring manager why you are the best fit there. And that's what it is really changing. And that's what it should be. And it's how you should use AI. So it is to give you the superpowers, not to do things for you.
It's a good point. I've talked to CEOs who are actually now, the double-edged sword is they are checking to see if cover letters were written with AI and tossing those out. How should people think about AI in terms of impacting their job search? If I'm going to college right now, how should I think about AI in terms of how it might impact my career choice?
Well, so again, you should actually think about this, about something that can really give you some superpowers. You don't have to actually think that it is going to do things for you, because if you think that AI it is just going to replace you on doing those job search, well, you're not using it properly. You need to actually use it as kind of your second brain. So think about when you're looking for a role, you should actually go through all the job desk, think through of everything that you have done and how to actually build something that is specifically written for that job opening. That's what AI can really help you in actually storing everything that you have done, every single step of the way that you have done, so that every single time it can help you surfacing the right thing for each job opening. That's the smart way to actually use it.
Anything that can help, I'm sure those job seekers appreciate it. Alessandro Cozzi, thank you for joining us on Connecting America.
All right, guys, let's check out our national diner of the day. Dave, you're going to like this one. Check it out. We're heading to Denver, Colorado. This is the Moonlight Diner and Bar. Dave, tell us if you know this one. It has chrome booths, breakfast classics. Oh, you'll like this. Endless coffee. Okay. They also have some truly unique meals like a French toast glazed donut, yum, with bacon and eggs to get your morning started. They are celebrating their 21st anniversary. Have you ever been there, Dave?
Well, here I am looking
He's
at this
looking up
up
the address.
feverishly. It is in Denver, Colorado, so
Yeah.
I'm shocked to say no, I have not. But boy, does it look unbelievable. I'm going to be in Denver in a couple of weeks, and that is now high
Look at
on
that,
my list.
Dave.
Moonlight Diner and Bar, I'm coming
Look at
to
that.
see you soon. Is that
the
brisket bacon or brisket?
Bacon or that's bacon?
I don't
Trish?
know.
Oh, that looks
I don't know.
unbelievable. That
Either that or
speaks
ham.
to me right now. We've got
Guys,
an
I
analyst who can tell us what that is.
yeah. What is that?
Our favorite server here at the Sunrise Diner, Trish. Trish, what are we looking at there?
It's either cured bacon or ham. I mean, that's what it looks like. And I love meat. Like, I'm a meat eater.
Oh, yeah. Speaking my language now, my friend.
Looking fantastic. All right, we're gonna be back here at
Guys,
Sunrise Diner coming up
I have
after
a
quick
guest
break.
here too. I just want to show you. I have a guest
okay.
here too.
Who's
So
that?
do you guys? Oh, okay. It's a tease. It's a tease.
Okay.
When we come
Okay.
back,
All
I'll
right.
be joined by a guest. Okay.
Like
All right, we want to see the guest. Oh,
Look who's
that?
here making a special guest appearance. It's Tula. Tula has allowed me to show her on national television.
Is
She normally
Tula a
charges a
puppy?
very no. Tula
No.
is our rescue dog. We got her before COVID. She's our rescue dog. She's half Maltese, half Shih Tzu. So, what do you think, Trish? Do you like? I know you love cats. Would you like? Tula is basically the size of a cat. Would you
I love all
allow
animals. I would love to have a dog sometime when we're home more.
Tula? Okay. Fair.
Tula's so well
Tula and I have come a
behaved.
long way. Like we had
Really?
a
It
very
wasn't love it,
contentious relationship,
not
and
love
then
at
we
first sight.
really bonded the last couple of times.
You
I
have.
miss Tula dearly.
To what do
She
you
loves you
attribute that
now.
bonding?
There's a
Ultimately?
distrust of, weird-looking fellas like me. I get that.
Yes.
But I gave her a lot of love, and I think
Yeah.
she came around.
And
It worked.
kudos
But look,
to Tula's hair and makeup artist this morning
yeah.
because she looks
Yeah.
fantastic.
She's bringing it. She's really bringing the look. She can hear your voices and she's intrigued. She's looking all over the place. They're right there in the screen.
Well,
Yeah.
we
So,
know Trish
yeah,
is going to love this next story, Allison, because it deals with cats. A
of
YouTuber
course.
in New Jersey has taken cat pampering to a whole new level. Look at this thing. Ryan Lipinski spent $125,000 to build a custom catio, an outdoor patio for his cats, Trish. He now has 7 of them, 3 foster cats enjoying his backyard catio. Custom catios let pets experience the outdoors safely without those risks of them roaming off somewhere. Actually, interest in these luxury cat products and experiences like cat parties and catios is on the rise, according to cat specialists.
You just have to be extra careful with prevention of things that can be transmitted just from them being outside. Parvo has come back in the last 5 years,
Okay.
with just distemper shots. Also with fleas, and ringworm is highly mutated in the last 5 years. So even though it's great that they're protected from the other elements, there are still so many outside elements to be prepared for
point.
when allowing your pets outside, dogs, cats.
Always impressed by your intellect and information, but can I just go back? What the hell? Catio? Is that a new term?
It's not
I've
that,
never heard
honestly,
that
it's
term in
not
my
that
life.
new. I've been seeing little snippets, smaller ones for
But
apartments.
$125,000?
Well, yeah, because he has a really nice one. It's like a tree house.
What?
I want to go in it. But
Yeah.
they have smaller ones for apartments and for single people on, little homes. They have much smaller ones, some that just stick out your window and give them a box. So it's not that new of a concept, but that one is spectacular.
Are you thinking about maybe
It
adding
would
a
look terrible
catio
in my
to your yard?
100-year-old house.
Oh, it would. It would destroy the
Absolutely.
ambiance.
I won't even put
Trish.
vinyl siding on it. We're scraping it and painting it.
That's cool. But Trish, don't you have like 29 cats? Don't they have to live outside?
Cats, honestly, most of the outside cats preferred to be inside. They actually chose it. They laid in front of the door and screamed at me as kittens and said, "I want nothing to do with outside. Please bring me in."
Okay.
That's amazing. So you have 29 indoor cats. Okay,
Yes.
that's incredible. Well, I'm going to build a Tulio for Tula, or a doggio for Tula, so I don't have to carry this load around.
A canine condo.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys want to see a very cool car chase?
Bring it. Yeah.
Okay, this is a scene straight out of an action movie. A suspected car thief drove through a security gate and jumped a partially raised bridge. Oh, police say the driver led them through residential streets before officers lost contact. That's not good. Don't like a car chase through residential streets. Eventually, the car was spotted near the city's University Bridge. That's when the driver floored it, leaping the gap as the bridge began to open. Officers later found the car, but not the driver. Okay, so there's a crazy stunt driver out on the loose that we need to find.
Wild.
All right, let's check that out. First, let's talk a little sports now. The New York Yankees, just a remarkable finish to this season, clinching a postseason berth last night. They have become the story of baseball down the stretch, and if you can see Yankee Stadium right there, it is packed to the brim. It is bursting with enthusiasm, and I don't think it hurts their enthusiasm that the New York Mets look like they are stumbling down the stretch. Congratulations to Yankees fans everywhere. They are thrilled. Meanwhile, also in baseball, umpires at Major League Baseball games will look a lot different next year. Starting next year, the league will introduce robot umpires, part of a new automated ball strike system. The system uses cameras set up around the perimeter of the field to track the location of each pitch. The review takes about 15 seconds. A human umpire will still be there to help call out ball and strike. Each team gets 2 challenges, can only be initiated by a pitcher, catcher, or batter. The system was tested in minor league games as well as in spring training. It's only a matter of time before that person behind the plate is not there. We've always had the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Let's use it.
Yeah.
Speed up the game. Make the accuracy improved.
I read one stat that it's about 94% accuracy for real umpires.
Why? Yeah, I mean, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's
But Dave, won't it take some character out of the game to not have the umps like with their arms flying around and people yelling at them and everything? Won't
That
that
is
lose some
exactly
element?
it. Sports analyst Alisyn nails it, because traditionalists want that ump behind the plate. And so it's really just a fight between traditionalists and moving on with technology. Ultimately, it will go there. But yes, it's all about keeping some tradition.
It was Tulia that fed her that question. I just want to let everybody know that. Hey, here's our question of the day. Should Jimmy Kimmel have apologized on his first show back after his suspension last night? 42% of you said yes, and 58% say no apology necessary. So thanks for weighing in here.
If you want to connect with us, you can download the Best of Connecting America each day. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, type in Connecting America in the search bar, and we are everywhere on your socials. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye, Tula.
Bye, Tula.